just broke off a corner of this table so that I could make it a little instructional on how to fix it. So the first thing you want to do is kind of just brush off all the loose stuff. Maybe give it a little blow. Make sure it's clean. And then you're going to take some concrete mix, and for that amount, just use a little wooden stick and just put a couple scoops in. And then you're going to, so it looks like this, you're going to pour a little bit of water in it. Like maybe start with like a couple teaspoons, maybe a teaspoon. And you're going to want to make it into a peanut butter-like consistency, but it's always better to go too dry to start, and then you can always add more water. So see how it's kind of all turning into one big ball. Okay, so it's like pretty thick. Now at this point, you're going to want to put a glove on, because concrete, it's not the worst thing for your hands, but it does dry them out. So once it's this texture, kind of a peanut butter-like texture, just smear it in. And at this point, you're going to want to put a little bit more. Basically just you're putting a thick coat on. A little thicker than what it's actually going to end up being, because we're going to sand it down once it dries. And yeah, the color's going to be a little different, but we're going to correct that after it dries. Okay, so now I'm just kind of pushing it in. And we're going to let it dry from there. Just make sure it sort of fills in the original shape, and then just a little bit more above that, so that we can sand it down afterwards. Okay, now that it's dried, you're going to go ahead and take some sandpaper. I just kind of use whatever grit I have. And you'll just hand sand it. It should sand down really easily, so just be really gentle with how you sand it, because you're basically going to sand it until it's flat on each of the sides. And you don't really have to push very hard. It's pretty soft because it's still kind of on the road to curing. And then you can kind of wrap around the edge a little bit. That's pretty much filled in. I might do one more step. There's just a little bit of a piece that I missed filling in. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat the first step one more time. And just put in a scoop. This time I need very little, so I'm just going to put in a little mini scoop. Add some water. And just create a little bit more of that peanut butter paste. This one is relatively deep, so it needed just a little more. But the great thing is that you can always work with concrete. It's never. So I just filled it in just a little bit right there. So I'll let that dry, and then just do a light sanding again. Okay, so now that that second one's dried, I'll just like barely rub it off. You can almost use your fingers to do it. So now it should be patched up. And then I'm going to take this wax It doesn't need much. You just take a little bit of this. It's just Johnson's paste wax. And just kind of go over this to somewhat still it. It should kind of, once it dries, it should sort of blend in. You might have a little bit of a difference there. But that's the beauty of concrete, is that all the imperfections are what make it look really good. That, and once that dries, it should blend in just a little bit more. And this wax is also something that you can go over the whole table with too. It kind of enhances the color a little bit. And then if you buff it, it'll be a little more glossy. But yeah, let's let this dry overnight and just see what the end result looks like. As far as drying times in between the different layers of concrete, as far as like when you patch it until you sand it, I would just give it a couple hours, a few hours maybe. It's not rocket science though, so, but yeah, if you have any questions, just reach out to me and I'm happy to help you. Alright, so I let it sit overnight and this is now what it looks like. So it looks like it's pretty well blended and good to go. One thing to note, just make sure before you put any of this patching stuff on that if there's any loose stuff that's like piled up, like rub it all off. You could even like kind of break it off a little bit with a screwdriver or something. Just make sure there's no more loose stuff. Just make sure to basically pull that all off before, because it's eventually going to come off. So you could also even take the sandpaper and sand over it before you start putting this patching material on. But just try to get all the loose stuff off before you put any of the patching material onto this.